Hello, my name is Eric Benner. I'm an enterprise architect with Mythics, and in this video we'll be talking about the application tier in a converged environment. A power of true convergence isn't just monitoring your systems at the database level or the hardware level or even the storage or the operating system, but you really need a tool that takes you all the way up into the application tier. And that's something rather unique about what we're using Enterprise Manager for, is that we can go from the entire application stack all the way from the systems, the servers, the storage, up into the application. You could do application monitoring with Enterprise Manager. There's two ways of doing it. One, if you have an Oracle application, you can use the AMS, the Application Management Service, for your application. So if you're running eBusiness or PeopleSoft or Siebel or etc., there's very specific add-ons for Enterprise Manager that give you very deep views into your application. But not everyone runs 100% Oracle. And this is, again, a power of Enterprise Manager, is it works with things outside of the Oracle ecosystem. I can actually monitor with Enterprise Manager your normal in-house applications. And you do this with a capability using what's called our services, where you can set up a service and then your SLAs to match the service to make sure you're meeting those needs. So I can look at, in this system, I've already built a couple targets. So I'll go to targets and services. I'll see that I have several services built. Now in this example, I'm just monitoring my own personal blog as a service. And I could do different things, so the services aren't just monitoring is it up or down, and actually can run a synthetic transaction against the service and look for garbage in, for garbage out. For an example, I have a DNS query here. And in this DNS, it's actually doing a DNS query against the internet, and it's making sure the DNS entry that comes back when it goes for my blog, talesfromthedatacenter.com, it actually looks for that IP address, and it wants to make sure that IP address comes back with the right IP. I'm not just checking is DNS working, I'm actually checking am I getting the right response. And here I can go in DNS, and I can see I've done it 253 times. I've had decent response time for DNS. Everything is sub-second performance. I can expand it against the beacon, which I'm running this transaction from, and I can see that the beacon's also performing well. One of the things with beacons is they allow me to run transactions from different locations. So if I have a system in, let's say, Atlanta, Georgia, with a beacon, and I have another system, let's say in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I have a beacon installed there, I can run transactions from both locations against my target. So here I can see I'm doing a DNS test. If I go back to my services, in this particular example, I'm running a test for DNS. I'm running a test that's just doing a basic ping. I'm also doing a web query, an HTTP query. And you can see here's this one. And this one's had some downtime. Some of this is because my Enterprise Manager system was down for a little bit while I was doing some maintenance on it. But I can also go to the test summary. And this will show my response time in seconds. And I can see I've had some okay response time. A little bit slower at times than others, but it's still acceptable response time. Again, a little failure. That's mainly because of maintenance I was doing. You can build with these services every little component of your application. Here I'm just doing a simple web component. So I'm doing an OS ping, an ICMP ping. I'm doing the DNS query. I'm doing an HTTP ping, which is a similar type of a ping. And I'm also doing an actual pull down the website. But what I can do that's interesting isn't just individual components. I can build here what's called an aggregate service. So I'll bring up the aggregate service. This tests all the tests that I have in the system, and it makes sure that all the components are up. And so here you can see it's doing the DNS query, the host ping, and HTTP ping, and actual HTTP transaction against my application. In this case happens to be my blog site. It gives me a history of when I've had a couple little outages. You can see some availability issues here, mainly maintenance. Some it's just sometimes the internet's not always responsive as we would like. The important thing is when I have this aggregate service built, if I have a true problem in my environment, I can very quickly identify the faulted component. So an example, if my DNS doesn't work, obviously everything else breaks, and this could actually show me that the DNS is broken, if that was the case, and I immediately know what I need to do for my root cause to speed up time to resolution. And this is somewhere where true convergence helps you reduce your downtime. This can identify the actual specific component and build that actual model that'll help me identify the root cause to fix it a lot faster. I also have SLA, service level agreements, that I can monitor. I can attach multiple SLAs to a target. In this particular example, I'm looking for 99.99% uptime. And I see I have over 7 minutes of violations remaining before I breach it for today, which is good. But I also have, when I build these SLAs, is I can build two metrics in it. I can build the actual client-facing SLA. In this case, I built an SLA that says I have to be up 99.99% of the uptime. I can set a second threshold, which is where I notify myself, I notify either my technical or my leadership that I might be in potential breach of the SLA. And you can set a second metric that might say it's 99.995% of the time. So if you're even coming into the opportunity where you might potentially breach your SLA, you know well in advance that that's at risk on it. Services in the system, you can see Power Aggregate services. Services are easy to build. I just go down to Target Services and I go to Create a Service. And I can create a test-based service, which is that synthetic transaction. This is the enterprise manager going out and testing other systems. I can also do a system-based test. This is one that's more important when I have a full agent installed, and it's where I have an agent installed that becomes a system-based test and gives me some things I can't do with a service test, but we'll pull up the service test here. So when I go to create a service test, what I'm going to want to tell it is obviously things like the name and the time. So we're just going to call the name of delete me on this particular one, and the time zone I'm doing the test in. And the next type is the type of transaction. There's a lot of transactions you can see here, but the end result is I can do queries against a ping, I can run a database transaction, I can run an LDAP transaction, I can run an email check, I can run a SOAP, RESTful call as a web service. But the important thing is, if it's not on this list, I can also do this custom script option. And this is the part of the power of the flexibility of Enterprise Manager in this environment, is that if I can't come out of the box, I can write my own custom script. They'll let me run my own transaction against my own in-house build application. And I can actually model the performance of the application, I can model the uptime of it, and monitor and alert of it. And this is part of that power of a truly converged environment for the full stack, is it gives you that ability to monitor pretty much anything. At this point, I haven't found much I haven't been able to get Enterprise Manager talking to. Even weather systems, it'll tell me, you know, if what the temperature is outside, and it works well for something like that as well. It's totally an open system. This particular example here, I'm going to go down and do like a RESTful call. I can put in the name of the call, how often I want it to collect, and the URL if I have to do authentication. There's just a lot of functionality here. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go over every option here. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your Mythic sales rep, and we'll be happy to answer any questions and get into more detail on how this might be able to use to help your environment. Thank you.